Allstar Jr.'s case just changed, and this is why I'm not treating this like an old topic. Because at first, a lot of people looked at this story like it was just another viral rap incident, a restaurant fight, a chain situation, a shooting, NBA Ben 10, Jay Prince Jr. rumors, Houston, Detroit. Everybody was picking a side before the full story was even clear. But now, this is not just internet debate anymore. This is not just people arguing about who was wrong and who was defending themselves. Now, there is a new charge. And once aggravated assault gets added to a case like this, the conversation changes. Because Allstar Jr. was already facing a federal gun case. Now, according to new reporting, he's also facing a state aggravated assault charge connected to a traumatic brain or spine injury. This is a completely different level of problems. This is the pressure room. And today, we're talking about Allstar Jr., NBA Ben 10, Jay Prince Jr., the new aggravated assault charge, and why this case may be way bigger than the internet thought. Now, before we go any further, let me say this clearly. Allstar Jr. has not been convicted. A charge is not a conviction. The trial has not started yet. So everything in this case still has to be proven in court. But the reason this update matters is because it tells you the case is moving into a heavier phase. At first, the public conversation was mostly about the shooting. Then it became about the federal firearm charge. Now with the aggravated assault charge, the focus is moving closer to the injuries allegedly caused during that night. And that's serious, because when a case involves a traumatic brain or spine injury, the court is not just looking at who had pride, who had a chain, or who won the internet. The court is looking at damage, permanent damage, life-changing damage. And that's why the whole story starts to feel different. Because online, people were reacting to the fight. They were reacting to the idea that Allstar Jr. was allegedly being attacked. They were reacting to the claim that people were trying to take his chains. And in hip-hop culture, that detail matters. A chain is not just jewelry. A chain is image. A chain is status. A chain is work. A chain is reputation. And when somebody tries to take it, especially in public, it becomes humiliation. It becomes a message. It becomes something the internet can replay forever. So when people first heard that Allstar Jr. was allegedly jumped or robbed for his jewels, a lot of people immediately said, what was he supposed to do? And that's where the debate started. Some people said he stood on business. Some people said he protected himself. Some people said, if you try to rob somebody, you cannot control what happens next. But now, with this new aggravated assault charge, the law may be looking at it differently, because the legal system does not always care about what the internet thinks is justified. The internet asks, did he get embarrassed? Did he defend himself? Did they try to take his jewels? Did he have a right to be scared? But the court may ask, who had the weapon? Who fired? How many shots were fired? What happened after the first threat? Was somebody still a danger? Was somebody already down? And was excessive force used? And that's where the case gets complicated, because street logic or legal logic are not the same thing. In the streets, people may look at it and say, if they jumped him, they started it. But in court, the question could become, what happened after that? That's the part people do not always want to talk about, because self-defense is not just a feeling, it has limits. And once somebody is seriously injured, especially if prosecutors believe the force went beyond the immediate threat, the case can shift fast. That's why the new charge matters. It suggests that prosecutors are not only looking at the gun, they are also looking at the injury. And that means this is no longer just a federal possession conversation. This is now becoming a bigger legal fight over what happened inside that restaurant. Now remember, the earlier federal case was already serious. Allstar Jr., whose real name is Jeremy Christopher Ford, was charged federally with being a felon in possession of a firearm convicted to the Houston restaurant shooting. Allstar Jr., whose real name is Jeremy Christopher Ford, was charged federally with being a felon in possession of a firearm connected to the Houston restaurant shooting. That charge alone is serious because the government does not have to prove every piece of street drama to make a federal gun case dangerous. They focus on the firearm, they focus on possession. They focus on whether the person was legally allowed to have it. And if the government believes that a convicted felon possessed a firearm, that can carry major consequences. But now with the aggravated assault charge, There are two different issues happening here. The federal side is about the gun. The state side appears to be about the injury. That makes this more dangerous because now Allstar Jr. is not just fighting one version of the case. He may be dealing with multiple legal angles from the same night. And that's why I would not call this story old. I would call it unfinished. The first wave was viral. This wave is legal. And the legal wave is the one that can change somebody's life forever. Now let's talk about NBA Ben 10, because the new charge is tied to the reported seriousness of his injuries. Reports have said that NBA Ben 10 suffered major injuries after the shooting, with new reporting describing irreversible paralysis. That's a heavy detail, and whether people like him or not, whether people believe he was involved in the confrontation or not, that kind of injury changes the emotional weight of this entire case. Because when someone is left with a traumatic brain or spine injury, the case becomes bigger than rap beef. It becomes bigger than Instagram comments. It becomes bigger than who had the toughest caption. Now the court is looking at a person's body being permanently changed, and that is exactly why this story cannot be treated like regular content. People online may laugh, pick sides, or turn serious situations into memes, but once the paperwork says traumatic brain or spine injury, that is not meme territory anymore. This is courtroom territory, sentencing territory, and victim impact territory. That kind of language makes the judge pay close attention. And that's why this update puts Allstar Jr. in a much tougher situation, because the public may still debate whether he had a reason to fear for his life or not. But prosecutors may now be focused on whether the alleged response went beyond what the law allows. And that's the fight. Not just what happened first, but what happened next, because a lot of cases come down to that. The beginning can look one way, the ending can look another. Somebody can be attacked and still face charges depending on what the government believes happened after the threats started changing. That's why this case is not simple. And anybody acting like it's simple is probably leaving something out. Now, one of the biggest problems in this whole story is how fast the internet crowned winners and losers. The internet wanted a clean version, one side all wrong, one side all right, one person the victim, one person the villain. But real cases are rarely that clean, especially when there is surveillance, when there are witnesses, and when people are injured. According to earlier reports, authorities pointed to videos and music they believe referenced the shooting afterward. And that's another layer, because what sounds hard online can sound different in court. So this is what happens when the internet moves on, but the case keeps getting worse. Allstar Jr. has to face the court. NBA Ben 10 has to live with the injuries. The families still have to deal with the consequences. The lawyers still have to fight over what the footage shows, and the public still doesn't really know what happened. And that's why I'm not treating this like a closed chapter. This chapter just got heavier. The question is, can his defense prove the response was legally justified? Can the government prove the firearm charge? Can the state prove the aggravated assault charge? And will the courtroom version match the internet version? And that's where we are now. The viral phase is over. The legal phase is here. And for Allstar Jr., this new charge may be the moment where the whole case changes. Thanks for watching. No pressure, no diamonds.